Hello, this is Kim with Herself 101, and today I want to talk to you a few minutes about boundaries. Do you know what a boundary is? Boundaries are so important for healthy relationships, and a lot of people, you know what the word means, but you don't know what it is to a relationship. So I kind of wrote me down a few notes, and I'll talk about what a boundary is. A boundary is defined as a line that marks the limits of an area. It is a divided line, and in relationships, it's a divided line between you and another person. You know, in some relationships, we don't know where one person ends and where the other person begins because boundaries are not put in place. So for us to have a healthy relationship, we want to make sure that boundaries are in place because they are important for any healthy relationship. You know, they're essential for a healthy life. And so we just want to have those boundaries put in place. And, you know, boundaries is one of the hallmarks of self-love and self-care and self-worth and all that self-jazz. If you can put a boundary in place and to show that you have that self-respect for yourself, to not let someone walk all over you and walk into your space unwanted, you know, it shows a lot about who you are and how you care for and love yourself. So that's why I really believe boundaries are important. And when I really caught hold to, you know, what a boundary was and how I could put that into my relationships, you know, it made my relationship so much better. So I want to share with you 8 tips on putting boundaries in place, on building strong boundaries. So the first one is to name your limits. We all have limits. A lot of times we have to consider what we can tolerate or what we want to accept from someone. We have to know our limits in order to enforce those boundaries and put them in place in the first place. You know, sometimes when we are feeling a certain way, we feel stressed and we feel uncomfortable in situations. And a lot of times those feelings are alerting us that we really don't like this situation. And 9 times out of 10 is because of a boundary has not been put in place. So we always have to name our limits. You know, those feelings identify what our limits are. So when you're feeling stressed or when you're feeling uncomfortable or not at ease in a certain situation because of what someone has said or done to you that's directly affecting you, then you need to hone in on that and name those limits and name those feelings, what you're feeling, so you can get to the bottom of it so that you can put a boundary in place. The next one is number 2 is to tune into your feelings. You know, a lot of times when we're feeling discomfort and resentment about somebody, about something that they've done or said, we need to pay attention to those too, because oftentimes when people cross over our boundaries or just step all over our boundaries, we feel those 2 emotions. It's discomfort and resentment. We're resenting them on some things that we hadn't even put in place with them yet. Yeah, we probably said in our mind what we don't like, or we probably get on the phone and call somebody and say, you know what she did, or you know what he did. Well, they don't know what they did. And even if they do, you're not being the person that you need to be for yourself to tell them that that's not cool with you. So you have to enforce those limits. Tune into those feelings, though. When you're feeling those 2, especially those 2 feelings, when you're feeling that feeling, and especially resentment where you almost don't even want to be around that person, you need to tune into that and to know that there may be a boundary that this person is crossing over. And the problem is you just hadn't told that person yet. So make sure you tune into your feelings. The next one is to be direct. You know, we have to be direct, and we can't just tap dance or just easily go over the situation, you know, and not be direct with the person. We have to be direct with the person, and sometimes we have to be a little bit more direct with some people because some people just will not understand, because it may be okay with that person for you to do them that way, but if they know that that's not okay with you, you have to be direct. And I like to use I statements because it's about you, it's about your discomfort, it's about the way you feel when you're not around that person. And sometimes you may even want to avoid that person because of the way that they make you feel by overstepping or stepping all over your boundaries. So sometimes you have to be direct. Even in marriages, if you're married or boyfriends, you know, if they speak to you in a way that you don't like, you know, you don't value being spoken to like that, you have to be direct and say, hey, I feel this way when you speak to me that way. I don't like it. I feel like it's disrespectful and I just don't like it. And I would appreciate it if you wouldn't talk to me that way. Or this just like if a friend or someone you know just pops up over to your house, you have to say, I don't like when you pop up over to my house. house, I feel like it's disrespectful. So sometimes it may be cool for you to pop up over their house, and that's probably why they're stepping all over your boundaries and doing you like that, because everybody doesn't have the same values, and we have to take that into consideration as well. No one is mind reader, so if that's not cool with you, then you need to address it with that person so that they'll know next time, and just be direct about the situation. Number 4 is give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to enforce and set boundaries, because, you know, a lot of times we'll feel guilty because we said this to that person, or, you know, really enforcing our boundaries, or we think they'll get mad or respond in a different way, or even we'll feel guilty speaking up to a family member. But we have to remember that we have to live healthy, happy lives. And in order for us to do that, we have to put those boundaries in place, or we're going to be resentful every time. We'll find ourselves avoiding those people in situations where we'll be around them, all because we have not given ourselves permission to put that boundary in place in the first place. So we have to give ourselves permission, no matter what the person may feel. And you can always respectfully put the boundary in place. You don't have to just go off. A lot of times people feel like it's easier for them to say what's on their mind when they're going off, or, you know, just have had enough. But a healthy relationship consists of communication back and forth. If you're not comfortable to communicate what you like and what you don't like with that person, then you probably need to check the relationship in the first place, because you should be able to have that back and forth feedback. And that's what a healthy relationship is. So being able to set that boundary, and them saying, okay, well, I didn't know that. Going forward, I will do this, that, and that, because I literally didn't know that. Also, number 5, practice self-awareness. Sometimes we'll put a boundary in place and we'll slip on that boundary. That's just like if we, like with the husband situation, we have to just, when we're training, when they training dogs, or when you're raising kids, you can't just let them do what they want to do this minute and then the next minute enforce something. People learn by routine. You have to put that in a routine. You can't let people get away with it this moment, and then when you're just had enough, you're just going to say, okay, I'm going to enforce it again. You have to continuously stick to your boundary. But when we slip, we just need to be self-aware. Okay, why am I feeling like this around this person all of a sudden again? Well, maybe you've let your boundary slip and you're not on your boundary check like you should be. So I just always think, you know, I've let my boundary slip, so now what am I going to do about this situation? Well, you need to put it back in place, and you need to vow not to let it happen again. Even with the husband situation, that's like if the husband talking to you crazy, and then next 2 days you let him get away with it. Well, he's going to continue to do that because you're slipping on your boundaries. And we can always do it. We don't have to, like I said before, we don't have to do it rudely, or we don't have to get angry with it. This is about you. It's about what you want. It's about how you feel and how you want to be respected and handled, so that you can be, you know, the happy person that you want to be. And you don't have to go around avoiding people because of your fault of not putting boundaries in place. Okay, number 6 is make self-care a priority. When we put ourselves first, a lot of times we get the inkling, you know, I'm putting myself first. I want to put boundaries in place. When I'm taking care of myself, when I'm loving myself more, I care about what people are doing to me. I care about people walking all over my boundaries and different things like that. So when you start to put yourself first, you're going to want to put those things in place, because you're important to you now. You love yourself. You have that self-worth, and you value yourself, and you want to make sure that everybody else is valuing you too. It's raining hard outside, but we're going to get through this video. Okay. Also, when you know, like I said, when you're valuing yourself, you're getting into this happy place, you're taking time for yourself, you're putting yourself first, you can just be around certain people and you can be happy, and you can just say, hey, you know, I don't like that, cut that out or whatever, but you have to put that boundary in place. Number 7 is be assertive. Assertive is not aggressive. Assertive is not aggressive at all. Assertive is saying, I want this. I need this. I don't feel comfortable with this. So it's just putting your wishes and your wants out to people, letting them know that, you know, I don't like when you do that. I feel uncomfortable. And then you know in your mind that you are resentful. You are resentful of that person and will probably avoid that person. So be assertive. Create those boundaries that and actually follow through on it. Don't just say it in your head. Follow through on it. And, you know, You don't have to do it jokingly, but be serious and let them know that, hey, I don't like this or that. It's all love still, but I want to be respected. I have to be respected. I love myself and I value myself, so I'm going to be respected. You know, that's just the thoughts that I have that's playing in my head when I want to enforce a boundary with someone. Okay, and number 8, our last one, is to start small. Start small. You know, we all weren't brought into this world knowing how to enforce boundaries. You know, up until we were about 18 or 21, or maybe older for some people, we were under the roof with our parents, and a lot of times parents are, well, this is my house and what I say goes, or whatever. And so you don't have very many boundaries with your parent when you're under their roof. You can have some, and I think in healthy relationships, everyone should have a boundary. But a lot of times we don't have those boundaries, and we're not taught to create or build those boundaries until later on in life. And so we have to have those boundaries so we can have good relationships. So remember, this is a skill, though. This is a skill, and you can master this skill. It just takes some time, it takes some practice, and it just takes doing it. You can master the skill of setting boundaries, and it's easy. You're happier, your relationships are healthier, you're not avoiding people, you're not being resentful, you're not on a phone call and saying, you know what she did, or this or that. You're going straight to the source, and you're setting the boundary with the person who needs to hear it the most. Okay, well, those were my 8 tips on building healthy boundaries for healthy relationships. I want you to comment below and let me know of some of your healthy boundaries that you've built in your relationships, or if you think it's time for you to set some boundaries in your relationships. Until next time, bye-bye.